Imagine for a minute that all of your hard work is paying off, not just today, just tomorrow, but for years and years, decades, maybe even centuries to come. We're talking about what it's like to create a legacy. And today we're going to explore what's really up for us entrepreneurs that are passion driven. We have this big mission to fulfill when we are literally creating something that can leave behind a legacy. Hi, I'm Melanie Benson and I'm America's leading small optimizer. And this is the Small Business Optimizer podcast. And what we do here is look at simple strategies that can elevate and exponentially expand our impact and our income and help us become the leaders that we were born to be by simply making a couple small tweaks in the way we run our business. And today I have a really, really awesome guest. Her name is Michele Scism. And Michele is what's known as a serial entrepreneur who knows how it feels to fail miserably at business. Anyone else know that one? Ding, ding, ding. And, one time Michele had the bank call her demanding their $1.5 million back. And it also knows how it feels to sign the contract to sell her company for $9 million. And today Michele is doing this amazing work in the world that helps people leave behind a legacy that they feel good about. So Michele, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks, Melanie. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and you just make me feel so excited every time I watch one of your emails come through, and I've been following your journey, and we kind of both had a mentor that influenced us at the same time. So Michele, why don't you share with us a little bit about how you got to where? I got to say, I'm massively curious about how you had that much $1.5 million that a bank wanted back from you. So you've got my curiosity up now.
That's right. Everyone always wants to know.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the $1.5 million? Well, so my history is serial entrepreneur, born into third generation, born into an entrepreneurial family that had children to guarantee they had employees. So at the age of 5, I was working in the grocery store. I grew up in a family. We owned a grocery store, a mobile home park, an RV park, a wrecker service, a trucking company, all at the same time. And, I spent a lot of my time actually once I came out of college and up until I was about 40 in the trucking industry and building our trucking company. That is where in the early 90s, the oil field industry fell apart in Louisiana, which is where I work and, or live, I should say. And, things went really bad, really fast, and the bank called in our loan. And so it was a very interesting time to be an entrepreneur. This was back when we were seeing 20+% interest rates for loans at banks, and it was just crazy. And so, it also was a great way for me to learn a lot of lessons about really being an entrepreneur and what are you willing to do to be in business, right? A lot of people at that point might just fold in their doors and call it quits and go. And I was, it was me and my dad and my grandfather and my brother running this company at that point. And I watched my dad just go to the bank and say, listen, guys, let's work it out together. You don't really want my money. It was actually very interesting to see what we were willing to do, what we asked for and we actually got. And, so long story short, we worked it out. It took us about 10 years, but about 17 years later, we actually ended up selling that company for $9 million. So at that point, I was in my early 40s, and I retired. We sold the grocery store that year and the trucking company, and kind of my whole family retired at the same time.
Except you.
Except me and them, because this is what happens. You don't take a serial entrepreneur. I really thought I was retired, Melanie. I thought I had done it, right? And but I forgot a couple of things. I forgot my kids were still in school. Forgot my husband owned his own business. So I thought I was going to travel and do all these things, and I ended up on the couch. And so then I started thinking, what is next? What's the next big thing? And I ended up in California at a 3-day conference for the guy who ended up being my first mentor, who was also your mentor. That's how you and I met. And, I sat there in that audience and watched him teach everything I knew about building business. And I walked up to him at a break and said, listen, if I hire you, can you show me how to do what you do? And he's like, well, yeah, absolutely. And so January 2010, Decisive Minds was born. And, I was just looking for a way to take what I know very well. And what I know how to do is build business and make money and help others do that. Because, I was educated from birth, and a lot of entrepreneurs, come out of corporate world, or maybe they've wanted to be an entrepreneur forever, but they don't have the background, the experience like I do. And so it's really fun. I get to bring all of that together. And, then we'll talk about how this business grew over the last 5 years. It is fantastic. We'll do, almost $750,000 this year. But it was no walk in the park. I really thought I would start this business and it would just be like almost like Michael Gerber says, I'd hang out my shingle and they would just come, because I had just sold a big business. I knew what I was doing. I know how to make money. It didn't matter. They didn't know me. It was a completely new place. No relationship was built yet. It took me a long time. It took me those first 2 years to really start making any money. And so that was eye-opening as well. So I'm glad
you had to reestablish yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you said something really, really profound, and that is, as an entrepreneur, you really get to see what you're made of when you hit the wall and have a failure.
Absolutely.
So I'm actually kind of curious, how much of that was mindset?
I think if we look back now, I don't think I knew at the time that we were, we had to just do what we had to do. And I see now that we had to adjust the mindset. We had to adjust the way we looked at things. One of the great things about working in my family and with my family, we were very successful in family businesses because we got it that each of us was really good at certain pieces. And we respected each other and we worked with each other. And so when we were struggling, when we were going through all of that, we came together as a team. It never was blame each other or anything. And when one of us got down, the others were like, come on, we're going to do it. We're going to make it. Right. And so we had this rule. Not everybody could be down at the same time. And
that's great.
I really knew nothing about mindset back then. And I can look back on it now and go, wow, we were doing that with each other and didn't even realize it. So it was a big piece to keep you going, because, if we start to play in that sandbox of this is never going to work, we're right. It's never going to work.
Yeah, and I love that this is coming up early on in our discussion today, because I think a lot of people personalize failure so much and they let the failure define what they believe they're capable of, instead of seeing it as it's an event. It's not who you are. And exactly, like you said, like what do we have to be willing to do to move through this or past it? And I heard resourcefulness, thinking out of the box, being willing to ask for things that might be outside of the norm, but being determined to rise above that challenge in that moment is so important and so pivotal for entrepreneurs to get. So thanks so much for bringing that up. I'm like even more inspired just hearing that part. So you build Decisive Minds, and you're now serving entrepreneurs, teaching them how to build their own businesses. What would you say is one of the greatest problems that your typical client faces as they're trying to build their own business?
I think it's there's a couple of things. The first thing is always that they don't know how to actually hold a sales conversation or close a sale.
Yeah,
right.
I see you talk about that one a lot. That's so big.
That's a big issue. But that almost becomes secondary, because when you want to talk to, when you don't have anyone to hold a sales conversation with, we have to start by creating our own audience and our own community and getting seen and getting visible. So really, I see it as there's two pieces to the main problem. Obviously, if we can't close a sale, we're going to go out of business, right? Money, cash flow is it. We have got to have the money to keep the doors open. But we also have to have the people to talk to hold those conversations. And so we really have to, if I look back at Decisive Minds, in that first year when I thought this was not working, it was absolutely, I just couldn't believe how difficult this was. But when I look back now at the progression, what I didn't realize I was doing that first year was I was building my community, and I was starting relationship, and I was growing on social media, and I was beginning to get out there and speak, and I was doing teleseminars and webinars and all of those things. It felt like no one was paying attention. But in reality, when the second year got here, so many people had been paying attention that maybe I didn't realize they were watching, right? We got people out there watching us all the time, and they started to appear in the second year, and they came along at the level of trust where they were willing to spend money. And so we actually, I did six figures my second year. The first year I did $12,000. So,
That's a big leap.
that's a big leap. A big leap, right?
Yeah.
But hindsight is always 20/20, and now I can see that that's what I was doing. So,
yeah. So this idea of the sales conversation, but having people to sell to is it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, and
exactly.
and they both kind of have to happen simultaneously. So let's say someone is getting started, they have absolutely no one to sell to. What's the first step you would encourage them to take to start building up that community and build some momentum?
I think, so first I'm going to say, don't do as I did, do as I say. Because I am an extreme introvert, very shy, extreme introvert. And so, I made a decision that first year that I was not going to go network. I was going to build this online community, right? That's where all this was going to come from.
Yeah.
And I obviously have been very successful with an online community. However, things didn't turn around until I went out and started speaking and started networking and doing those things face to face. Because when we're looking at how do we find that person to talk to about possibly working with us, building an online relationship with someone takes probably 4 times the amount of time as meeting them face to face in a networking event, or going to a marketing event where they're teaching marketing, and depending on who your audience is, is your audience other entrepreneurs, right? Are you looking for other entrepreneurs? Or, going to the PTA, whoever that is you're looking for, starting to be seen in those arenas as an expert, whether that is you just getting up and doing a 10-minute or 20-minute presentation in the middle of a luncheon, or what that looks like. So do as I say and not as I do, because it was 12 months.
You learned better.
It was December of 2010 when I actually went and did my very first ever speaking engagement. And I'll never forget this, because a woman from Houston called and said, hey, can you come speak for my luncheon? I've been watching you, and I want you to come talk about your book. And so I went to Houston and did this 20 minutes, and I was working with my coach, and he's like, okay, so do this and then make them this offer. It was a $97 offer. I'll never forget this. And so I did my 20 minutes. I did what he said to do. And then at the end of that, these women swarmed me, and 21 people handed me $97. And I got in my car and I called him, and all I said was, I can do this. So I just made $2,000 in 20 minutes. I can do this, right? So, just be seen. Get out there. Find those people. And it's not as difficult as you think it is. If you're hiding out at home, that's the problem.
Yeah. And by the way, I would never have guessed you're an introvert by nature.
Gosh.
It's really interesting how so many people come alive on stage or in whatever that mechanism is. I used to see you coming alive. But now that you've said that, I guess I can kind of see that, in some of the way you are.
I consider myself a situational extrovert. So when I go on stage, I know I have to be there. I know that's part of the process.
Yeah.
But I also have to get by myself to re-energize. So I am very, very introverted.
Well, so not trying to build your business by sitting at your desk. Great advice, because I can see with social media these days and all of these promises of these online empires that you can build overnight with just pushing buttons. I can see where, the mystique is misrepresented. And
absolutely.
You got to really be seen, and you got to have connection with people that they want more. So even if you're just out at some of your local community associations, giving a quick 20-minute talk, like you just said, can go miles and miles towards compelling people to want to connect with you more.
Yeah, and remembering that the person with the mic in their hand is automatically the authority. It is yours to lose at that moment, right? You're given the authority when they hand you the mic. So that right there eliminates half of the problem in the room for you, because then everyone wants to speak to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. You're automatically an authority with the mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about you, because obviously you went from 0 to 100,000 or whatever, breaking that six-figure mark in a year, which most people, it takes them years to figure that out if they ever do. Now, we know one of your challenges was trying to build it from your desk, but was there anything else that was like a huge learning curve for you that once you really learned it and you figured out how to do that piece, it made making your business successful easier?
Yeah, so, one of the things I really noticed for myself was that there was a moment in time when I became really clear that I'm good at what I do. I kind of always knew it, but then I would like almost apologize when I was asking them for the money, right? I wanted to help them, but I didn't want to take their money. All of that was going on for me.
Yeah, a lot of conflicting beliefs.
Yes, absolutely. And I saw it happen towards the end of the second year, really early in the third year. In the third year we did almost 400,000. And what I can see now that was going on for me was that I started working with clients. They were seeing massive success. And I just stepped into it. I got really clear on who I like working with, who I will not work with, and became no longer apologetic. And, my clients say, that I'm the truth teller. I will just flat out tell you if I think what you're going to do is good, not good, worked for me, didn't work for me, worked for my friend, didn't work for my friend, whatever I have. But I will also tell you if I'm not the right person for you to work with, right? Because I'm looking for specific types of people because I'm looking to make sure that they're very successful. And so I think that clarity for me really got big because whenever I got clear, then I had the courage to say, you know what, you're not the right fit for me. And maybe this is what you need to do to become the right fit for me. And then I also got clear in being able to ask for the money without an apology attached to it.
Yeah, and there's an energy involved when you invite someone to invest in work that you're going to do together. And if you're feeling apprehensive about it, they pick up on it.
That's right.
Yeah, nobody wants to invest big money in someone who's wishy-washy or feeling uncertain, about that transaction. So that's great. And I think mastering that, it's part of what we have to optimize as an entrepreneur and business owners. You have to figure out how to optimize the sales process. Absolutely. I mean, you got to get congruent and in confidence with asking people to buy.
Yeah. And learning that, one of the things I did really wrong really early on was that someone would tell me they had a problem and man, I would just jump into fixing it, right? I'm a fixer. It's what I do. And I had to get real clear on I'm not necessarily helping them by giving them a quick fix answer when this is in reality probably a long-term process of turning things around. And so, I hear that often from people that they think maybe they give too much. But then the guilt kicks in if they don't give too much. So it's a fine line and something you have to work on to get comfortable with.
Yeah, it's a very powerful skill to have. And I've noticed lately you're talking a lot about legacy.
Yes, absolutely.
And leaving behind something more than just a pile of cash.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It is nice. But, I think that entrepreneurs really want, I think the majority of us are not just out to make the dollar today. We want to create a change. We want to create something in this world that really means something. And whether that legacy is that you're creating a business that you can transition to the next generation if that's your desire, or you can choose to sell it if that's your desire, or you can run it from an island somewhere, right? Whatever it looks like, whatever the format looks like is one thing. It's about building that model of the business that doesn't consume your entire amount of life and really makes a big change in the world. And so, I don't know if you know, Melanie, that a little over a year ago, my father, he was actually working in his yard and he fell and hit his head. And it was on my birthday. We were supposed to be going to dinner. My phone rings. It's my mom. And I'm thinking she's going to call about dinner. And she calls and says, your dad's on the floor. I can't get him up. I don't know what's wrong. And so we get him to the hospital and realize that when he fell outside, he hit his head. He had a brain aneurysm and he died the next day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And at that point, it had been 3 or 4 years since we had sold the business, or maybe 5 years. And we had started other family businesses again, all a family full of serial entrepreneurs. But what happened was we took a month off and we spent time with each other and did what we needed to do. And at the same time, our businesses continued to run. Our employees got paid. Our clients got taken care of because we build businesses in a way that doesn't require us to be constantly in the middle of it, right? There are systems in place and there are procedures and people know what to do. And so we were able to take that time. And at the same time, there's a woman here in town who owns a day spa. She's owned it for like 25 years. I've been there 100 times. And she passed away the week before my dad did. And so about a week later, I'm driving by the spa and I notice there's a for sale sign on it and there's a chain on the door.
Wow.
And so she had worked on this business for 25 years and it's gone because she didn't create the systems and the procedures and the possibility for her family to be able to take that business and sell it if they didn't want to run it, right? And that was really an awakening for me when I looked at what my clients were doing, what other entrepreneurs are doing. Are they building the business with the systems in place and the procedures and the right people and the desire and the exit plan, right? So I realized those are natural to me. We've done that my entire life. And so that's really become my big focus, is helping people do that for themselves.
Do you think a lot of people feel resistance to this idea of a legacy that can move, can be run without them because they mistakenly believe that they're the only thing that's valuable in the business?
Yeah. So I think that, I think there's definitely a point of that concern for almost every single entrepreneur, because there's that moment when they say to me, but I'm the only one who can do it. Yeah. Right. And every time I can have a conversation with them and walk them through it and go, so let's look at this. Are you just absolutely in love with it and think that you're the only person, or can we systemize it? Because if we cannot systemize your business, then it's not scalable. And if it's not scalable, then it is not something that can be transitioned or something that can be sold, or, it's just making you a living. And is that what you want to live the rest of your life? So yes, there's absolute resistance there. Normally, I'd say 95% of the time I can have the conversation and they can go, okay, maybe I'm not the only one who can do it. Right. Yeah. So I do get that a lot from, healing type business owners.
Yes.
They feel
people who do transformation work of some kind. Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, there's still ways to teach what you do. And, yeah.
So systems, processes, but realizing that you really can teach anybody to do anything.
Absolutely.
So it's a mindset shift again.
Yep.
There's a big part of that that's the mindset of recognizing, what if you could leave something behind to either financially fuel your family, or that someone else could continue the work and move it out in a bigger way than you're going to during the time you choose to work. Right. And recognizing there's some things you can do today that will allow that business to be bigger than just you.
That's right.
I love it.
I love it too.
So, let's say somebody wanted to find out more about the work you're doing, and they're like, okay, I get it. Like, I need to set myself up to leave behind a legacy. What would be the best way that they could learn from you?
So first, let me tell you that you can go to decisiveminds.com. We have lots of information there. We have free reports that will help you just on every topic you can even imagine. So check out the website, connect with us there, connect with us on Facebook. But, also we do training, we do events, we do live streams. We're constantly doing having ways for you to learn from us, and whether that's virtually or in person. So, yeah, lots of great stuff going on.
Great. Let's give them the website again.
Yes, decisiveminds, MINDS.com.
Good. And we'll put this up on the screen as well. So, Michele, I just love this whole stand you're making for a legacy. It's something that I've believed in forever and ever and ever. And some people will be ready, and some people are just interested in this idea.
Yeah.
What is the thing that, like, you think more than anything it must happen today to set yourself up for success 10 or 15 years from now?
I think that you have to start looking at your, and we'll use the word again, your systems. And what I mean by that is that a lot of us are working with individuals, right? So we are providing what I would call brain power. We're coaches, we're authors, we're healers. So we don't always look at ourselves as systemized, but I can tell you that when you look at the way you work with your clients, there's a system. You do it the same way all the time, even if it feels different to you. I'm telling you, there's a system. So if you want to start looking at how do you build this into a legacy in the long run, that's the first thing for you to look at as a system. The second thing for you to do is to look at all the doing that you're doing. So
the doing you're doing.
Doing you're doing. And you begin to build a legacy business by getting some of the doing off of your plate. So that means starting to build your team. Okay, so we always start by replacing ourselves in some of those other areas. So you are the life coach, yet you're doing your bookkeeping, right? So hire someone to do the bookkeeping. Start moving some of those other pieces off of your plate and start building your team. And those are the steps to start you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'm, you know me, I'm all about team. It's what I've been teaching for 10 years, and I could never have achieved what I achieved without getting things off my plate that other people do better, faster, or cheaper than me. So,
that's right. Me too. Me too. I love my team meeting. I want to go to my team meeting and I want to be like surrounded by the smartest people I know. I want them to be really good at what they do so I can be masterful at what I do. So.
Yeah. Hey, you know, while we're on the subject of team, and I don't actually bring this up very often, but since you really are masterful at building your own teams, what is one thing you look for when you hire someone else?
Well, so for me, I like quick response. Personally, I know that I want somebody who's like on top of things. And I've had a couple of team members that were like, we take 3 days to turn things around when I think it could have been done, in the next 3 hours or whatever. So that usually is my biggest thing is I'm looking for, how are you going to be in this team where we move fast. We're constantly coming up with the next big thing and we still have the old stuff we're working on and there's lots of stuff going on. So that's one of the things I'm looking for. The second thing is usually the recommendation of someone else. I am looking for people. I pay very well. I do pay on the top end of most pay scales. And so I'm looking for people who know what they're doing already. They're not testing themselves out on me. So usually I'm looking for someone who's coming from a very well-recommended source. So, yeah, those are my big things.
One of the things that I learned to look for over the years, and this was just through trial and error, is I look for people who are taking ownership of their role rather than waiting for me to constantly drive them forward. And it's interesting how many people in the service industry around support, like VAs and stuff, they're not necessarily understanding how valuable that is to us, and that if you're looking for longevity and you really want to thrive with an entrepreneur, you've got to take stuff off their plate and be the one who's like, hey, what else can I do?
Yeah, I think that's huge as well. That I do remember from my very first VA, that was one of my things. I was like, well, why didn't you think of this? So I'm an entrepreneur. We are like thinkers, right? Let's fill a room full of thinkers. So that's perfect. That's absolutely something people should be looking for.
Great. A couple of insights that you can take away and listen to as you're listening into this interview today. If you're looking at hiring, there's little nuances you got to look for that you might not realize are super important.
Yeah.
All right, Michele, let's wrap up with what is a favorite quote of yours?
Oh my goodness. I would say my absolute all-time favorite quote comes from Maya Angelou, and it is, when you get, give. When you learn, teach. And that has really been my motto for a long time. And yeah, I love that quote.
I can see you live in that one, especially now that you're bringing your legacy work out. It really is. That is the formula for fulfillment. Yes. And really having a heart that's full as you step out into the world of entrepreneurism. Great. Thanks, Michele. So as you're listening in today, Michelle and I have just been chattering away here with all kinds of wisdom and insights. I'd love to hear, was there an aha for you, something that really popped? Head on over to the blog at melaniebensonstrick.com. You can just put Michele Scism in and search for it if she's not right there top of mind. But I know we would both really like to hear from you. What was a takeaway, something that you can put into action today? And be sure to tune in again next week. We'll have another really fantastic guest expert to light our fire and show us the way on what they've optimized for success. So, Michele, thanks again for being here, and thanks for making a stand for the legacy work in the world. It's really so critical and important for us to have that big picture attitude as we're building our business.
Thank you. And, thanks for all the work that you do too, Melanie. I love watching what's going on with you and all your shows and everything. So very cool.
Thank you, Michele. All right, bye, everyone. See you again next week.
Bye.